next thing we're going to talk about is something that I have heard is very confusing in one-point perspective and in two-point perspective, but I'm just going to show it to you in one-point perspective first. And that is how an object can move in perspective. For this purpose, I'm going to use the cubes, and I'll probably switch back and forth between the transparent cube and the solid cube. Your cube, in one-point perspective, always has one flat side facing towards you. Because of the fact that it has one flat side facing towards you, it has one flat side in the back that's facing away from you. And then you have four sides, the top and the bottom, and the left and the right side, that are moving back in space. If I were to twist the cube, that would change it to two-point perspective. So in one-point perspective, you always have one flat face or plane that's aiming towards you, or in this case, it's aiming towards me back here. The cube can also move side to side, and that's going to change the way that you see it. Your cube can also move front to back, and that's going to change the way that you see it. And then it can also move up and down, and that's going to change the way that you see it. So let me show you a little bit about how that's going to look on your page, because it's one thing to understand that with the physical 3D object. It's another thing to see that and see how it works on your page with flat lines. Sometimes your brain can get a little bit confused because your eyes are going to look at the flat lines and say, hey, I know that's a mess of flat lines. It's not actually showing any depth. So let me show you what that looks like on the page. Okay, so this is the one-point perspective cube that we drew the other day. You can see that we're seeing the front side. It's a transparent cube. We're seeing the front side closest to us, and then the top right here, and the side right here. And because we're seeing the top more than we're seeing the bottom, it's what's called a bird's eye view. This is the most common way that I would draw an object, is usually from a bird's eye view. Now, the confusing thing about this is that the bird's eye view is always going to have your horizon line at the top. That's because your horizon line actually represents the height of the eyes of the person looking at the object, or you could think of it as the height of the camera. Because my camera and my eyes are above this object, I'm seeing the top of it. Let's look at it from a couple of different viewpoints. So this would be the bird's eye view, and my horizon line, which is my eye or my camera level, is up above, and therefore I'm looking down on top of the cube. This one might be a little bit easier to see because I drew it as a solid cube, and so we aren't seeing the back lines back here to show the transparent cube. Next, let's look at if we put the cube at the same height as our eye, it's either going to be resting on the horizon line. This one can be a very confusing way to draw it because here you can see the front side at the bottom is flat, and then the side at the bottom is also flat. So I usually try to avoid that if I can, and I lower my cube a little bit below the eye level. So here, this is a horizontal line because it represents the front side, and this one is a diagonal line that's moving up to my vanishing point because it represents the side that's moving back in depth. And then you can see the top front is a horizontal line, and the side is a diagonal line moving down towards the vanishing point because that represents the side that's moving back in depth. And these are both called eye level. This one is on the horizon line, this one is bisecting the horizon line. And then the third way that you can draw your cube would be if it were up above your head. You want to think of it like your eye or the horizon line is below the object, looking up at this object. Now this one is the least common way to draw any of your objects in perspective, and that's because we have gravity. So our things are weighted, they stick to the table. It's actually a lot easier to draw because they aren't floating around or levitating. And this one is called the worm's eye view, so you want to think of it like you're down here, you're the worm lying on the ground, looking up at the object, and you can see the bottom and a little bit of the side and a little bit of the front. Let's look at how that would be portrayed in another way. I think this might help you to understand it. So going back here to the worm's eye view, your horizon line is down low. It's as if you're lying on the ground, so my little stick figure is lying on the ground. You're seeing a very, excuse me, small area of grass and a large area of sky above your horizon line. This one is your eye level view. So my stick figure is in the middle of the page where my horizon line is. The eyes are in the middle of the page. You could also think of it like if they were holding a camera. The camera, there, that's an old-fashioned camera. It had a little flash cube on top. Wow, it's like an 80s camera. So this one, your horizon line is in the middle of the page. Your eye is in the middle of the page. You're seeing about an equal amount of the sky and the ground. And then this one is your bird's eye view. So this is where your eye is up above. My little stick figure is standing on a ladder in order to be able to look down onto the cube. And there's a small amount of sky that's available to see from this point of view. So that motion describes the cube moving up and down in your view. And that can be really helpful to understand. So what I just described for you guys is that your cube can move up and down like this. It can move side to side, and it can move front to back, and that's going to change the view. But mostly I explained how your cube's going to move up and down on the page and how that corresponds to your horizon line, and then the different names for it, the bird's eye view, the eye level, and the worm's eye view. Those are really important key things to understand in perspective, and so if you can understand them with a cube, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to understand it with something more complex that we do later on. I hope that helps you out. Thank you all so much for watching. More videos are coming soon, so if you wish to subscribe to my channel, go ahead and do that. And also you can check out my website, lzmstudio.com.